People often think the powerful can only be brought down in a courtroom or on the business battlefield. But sometimes, the truth is revealed through the eyes of a 9-year-old child. This is the story of Maya, a woman of color who sacrificed her career, family, and youth for love, only to be crushed by the very wealthy husband she trusted. From the shadows of violence and deceit, she and her daughter transformed pain into evidence, silence into a weapon, and rediscovered faith in the kindness of others. The sweetest revenge is not watching the wicked fall, but living a life so free, proud, and joyful that he becomes irrelevant. In the vast Hampstead mansion, where white-painted walls reflected chandelier lights like falling stars, the clinking of cutlery shattered the stillness of an autumn evening. Adrian Sawyer stood in the sleek, Italian-designed kitchen, where every tile gleamed like glass. He stirred a pot of pumpkin soup with an old wooden spoon, an object seemingly out of place in such luxury. Yet it was the very spoon he had used 10 years ago. On the night, he first cooked dinner for Maya Okoye, a bright-eyed law student of 22. The sweet aroma of soup filled the kitchen, mingling with sage and cream, evoking warmth, comfort, a flavor once tied to love, or at least what used to feel like love. Adrian smiled faintly, but the smile never reached his eyes. In the pocket of his tailored vest, a small glass vial pressed heavily against him, carrying its sordid secret, a fine white powder, tasterless, odorless, traceless, just a few spoonfuls, and Maya would never wake again. Then Adrian Sawyer would be free to live with Tamsin Blake, his fiery young secretary, who was waiting for him in a luxury suite at the Savoy. Soft footsteps behind him made Adrian flinch. Maya appeared in the doorway. She wore a cream silk dress, her warm brown skin glowing under the flicker of candlelight from the dining room. Her beauty was no longer that of the fresh-faced girl he once knew, but it had deepened, layered with sacrifice and years of endurance. The fine lines around her eyes told stories of patience and pain. She froze momentarily at the sight of Adrian cooking something he hadn't done in years. You're really cooking?" Maya's voice trembled, laced with surprise and a flicker of hope. Adrian turned, his smile practiced and sweet. "For you. Our 10th anniversary. Pumpkin soup with sage and cream, just like our first date." Her gaze softened. She stepped inside, the faint scent of jasmine perfume following her. "Adrian, I thought you'd forgotten." Her face instantly lit up like the young woman she had once been, laughing with him under Oxford's drizzle when he had draped his soaked jacket over her shoulders. She smiled, a rare gift in these tense recent months. "How could I ever forget?" Adrian lied smoothly. The truth was, he had forgotten long ago. Only Tamsin, rummaging through Maya's journal, had unearthed that detail and suggested, "Surprise her with it." From the kitchen island, a small voice piped up, "I want to watch Daddy cook." 9-year-old Nia sat on a high chair, her wide, dark eyes following Adrian's every move. She was her mother's mirror, calm yet piercing, observant, never missing a thing. "Sweetheart, why don't you go watch TV in the living room?" Adrian coaxed, feigning cheer. "Tonight's a special dinner for Mommy and Daddy." "I want to stay." Nia's reply was steady. "You don't cook anymore. I want to see." Adrian bit his lip, irritation pricking at him. Children should be seen, not heard, he thought. But he turned back to the stove, stirring again. The vial in his pocket rattled softly with each beat of his heart. "I'll set the table," Maya said gently, reaching for the cabinet. She chose a porcelain bowl with a small chip on its rim, the one she loved, claiming it has character. Adrian smirked. "Perfect. The last bowl she'll ever use." His fingers brushed the glass vial. Just one moment, and it would all be over. But Adrian had overlooked one thing. The ornate mirror Maya had hung the previous Christmas, directly opposite the stove. In its reflection, his every move slipping the vial from his pocket, the white powder dissolving into the soup was laid bare. And Nia's sharp eyes missed nothing. Adrian turned, carrying Maya's favorite bowl, filled with golden soup, a cold smile on his lips. "For you, the lady of the house." Maya received it, her wedding ring glinting under the light. She lifted the spoon, her eyes brimming with emotion, hoping for a new beginning, for love to rekindle. "Mommy," Nia's scream cut through the air like glass shattering. "Don't eat it. Don't, Mommy." Startled, Maya dropped the spoon. Soup splattered across the marble floor. The bowl shattered with a sharp crack. She stared at her daughter, horrified. "Nia, what are you saying?" "Daddy put white powder in the pot. I saw it in the mirror. He put something in the soup." For a moment, silence smothered the room. Adrian's face paled, then quickly hardened. "Nonsense. It was just salt. I wanted the flavor perfect." "Salt? From your pocket?" Maya's voice was low, burning. Adrian opened his mouth, fumbling for another lie, when a sharp meow rang out. Onyx, the family cat, had leapt down and begun licking the golden puddle on the floor. "No, Onyx," Nia cried, rushing forward, but it was too late. Within seconds, the cat convulsed, foam bubbling at its mouth, its body trembling violently before collapsing in silence. Maya froze. Her gaze traveled slowly from the still body of the cat to the soup, and finally to Adrian's face. Her whole body trembled, but her words were clear, cutting like a blade. "You just tried to kill me." Adrian raised his hands desperately. "No, listen. I can explain. You tried to poison me." Maya screamed, her voice breaking. "On our 10th anniversary, in front of our child." Nia clung to her mother, sobbing. "Mommy, let's go. Let's leave now." Adrian lunged forward, his face contorted. "You're not going anywhere. This is my house. Without me, you're nothing, both of you." Maya held his gaze. The love was gone. The fear was gone. Only bitter clarity remained. The man she had given her youth to was dead to her, and before her now stood only a stranger, a murderer. She knelt, gently closing Onyx's eyes. When she rose, her back was straight, her voice unshakable. "You just destroyed yourself, Adrian Sawyer." Taking Nia's hand, she led her out of the cold, sterile kitchen. Behind them, drops of soup dripped from the counter onto the floor, one by one, like the clock ticking, counting down the end of a man who once thought himself untouchable. The heavy oak door of the Hampstead mansion shut behind them with a dull thud, echoing like the end of an era. Maya gripped her daughter's hand tightly as they descended the cold stone steps, her heart surging with terror and relief. The night wind swept through the folds of her silk dress, carrying the dampness of fallen autumn leaves. Her left hand still trembled, as if the poison from that soup clung to her skin. Nia, small but steadfast, clung to her mother's arm. Her wide eyes were still wet with tears, yet within them shone a determination far beyond her 9 years. "Mom, where are we going?" "Daddy will come after us." Maya squeezed her hand. "As long as we're out of that house, we'll be safe." "Listen to me, darling, we're not going back tonight." Behind the door came heavy footsteps, followed by Adrian's roar. "Maya, get back here. This is your home. Without me, you are nothing. If you leave, you lose everything: money, house, reputation. Do you hear me? Nothing." His words sliced through her memories. For years, she had abandoned her promising law career, turned her back on family in Manchester who disapproved of her interracial marriage, and set aside every personal dream, all for this man. And now, in his voice, there was no love, only possession. Maya turned, glancing through the frosted glass panel. Adrian's shadow loomed, trembling with rage, his face twisted in madness. In that instant, she no longer saw her husband, but a stranger capable of murder. Drawing a deep breath, she summoned her courage. "You tried to poison me in front of our daughter, Adrian. From this moment, you've lost everything." She pulled Nia forward. Mother and daughter crossed the stone path to the iron gates. Their shadows stretched long beneath the sickly glow of the streetlights. Maya hadn't yet thought of where to go. Adrian controlled their bank accounts. The credit cards were all under his name. The small flat she once rented was long gone. Even the car in the garage was registered to him. "Are you cold?" Maya asked softly. "I'm fine. But Mommy, he'll find us." Nia's voice was quiet but resolute. "He always does." Maya bit her lip. It was true. Adrian had never surrendered to anything. He wouldn't stop, not out of love, but from sheer possession. Like a predator deprived of its prey, He would use every weapon to drag her back or destroy her. A taxi appeared on the road. Maya waved it down, urging Nia inside. Highgate, she told the driver. It was the only place she could think of where an old law school friend once lived. In the rear-view mirror, Maya saw a light flicker on upstairs in the mansion. Adrian's figure appeared, staring down, phone pressed to his ear. She knew the counterattack had begun. Calls to banks, lawyers, maybe even the police. The cab wound its way down narrow streets. Maya leaned her head against the window, her breath ragged. Inside her, fear tangled with fury. She had once thought that if her marriage ever ended, it would end in tears, perhaps divorce, perhaps separation. Never had she imagined it ending with a poisoned bowl of soup. "Mommy," Nia whispered, "I saw everything." Daddy took the vial from his pocket. "I swear, I didn't imagine it." Maya squeezed her daughter's tiny hand. "I believe you, sweetheart. If it weren't for you, I'd already be." Her voice broke, tears spilling. "Will we be okay?" Maya looked into her daughter's eyes. Though uncertain, she nodded. "Yes, we'll be okay. Because I still have you, and you still have me." When the taxi stopped in front of the Highgate house, Maya reached for her wallet and fumbled for cash. It was nearly empty, only a few coins rattled inside. The driver frowned. "Madam, I need the fare." "Please, I'll pay you back. I need to get my daughter inside safely," Maya pleaded. Nia timidly held out a £5 note, her pocket money from Grandma the week before. "I have this." The driver looked at them, sighed, and waved them off. "Go. But next time, bring enough." They hurried to the door, knocking urgently. But the old friend no longer lived there, the neighbor explained. She had moved away last year. Maya sank onto the stone steps, despair crashing over her. Her phone buzzed. Adrian's name glowed on the screen. Hands shaking, she answered only to hear his voice, cold as steel. "Maya, you've just made the biggest mistake of your life. Wherever you go, I'll find you. You think you can leave me? You have no money, no house, nothing. And Nia, do you really think you'll keep her? Wait and see, the courts will be mine. To everyone else, you'll look like a madwoman." Maya gripped the phone so hard her knuckles whitened. She screamed, "You killed Onyx. She saw everything. The truth can't be hidden." Adrian's chilling laugh filled the line. "A cat? Who would believe the word of a child and a dead pet? I have doctors, lawyers, and money. And you, Maya, you have nothing. You will regret this." The call ended. Maya sat frozen, her eyes clouded with tears. But Nia clutched her mother's hand, her voice firm. "Mommy, don't believe him. We still have each other. And I saw everything. I remember every detail. I can write it down. I can tell it again. I'll testify for you." A faint light returned to Maya's eyes. She hugged her daughter tightly. "Yes, my love, we will not be silent. He thinks he can erase me, but no. I will rise. And you are living proof. From now on, we fight." The London night stretched vast and cold, the wind rushing through the trees. In the distance, church bells tolled, marking the close of one chapter and the beginning of another one of resistance, truth, and a journey without retreat. London lay under a grey sky, heavy with clouds, fine drizzle blurring the window panes. In the shabby flat on the outskirts where Maya had hurriedly found shelter through an old acquaintance, the air was thick with tension. 3 days had passed, since the 10th anniversary night. 3 days since her marriage was shattered by her daughter's scream, and the sudden death of Onyx, the cat. 3 days were enough for Adrian Sawyer to show the full force of a man accustomed to wielding power to control everything. Maya went to the bank the next morning, hoping some money remained in their joint account. But the clerk, expressionless, informed her. The account was frozen, a lock order signed by Adrian. Her explanation was dismissed with the same mechanical response. "I'm sorry, we are just following procedure." That afternoon, the machine flashed invalid when she tried to use her credit card to buy necessities. Even the small car she once drove had already been transferred into Adrian's name. Every financial escape had been sealed. She phoned her in-laws to ask after her daughter, only for Adrian's mother to answer. her voice sharp as glass. "Nia is with us. She cannot stay with a delusional and dangerous mother. Adrian only wants to protect his family. You need psychiatric treatment, Maya." Before Maya could respond, the woman added, "We have already contacted Dr. Mercer. He has confirmed you show signs of severe paranoia." Maya's knees weakened. She realized Adrian hadn't only planned to kill her, he had also prepared to erase her, to brand her insane in the eyes of the world. 2 days later, a thick envelope arrived at her lodging. Inside was a divorce petition, filed by Adrian's lawyer. The reasons were stated coldly: abandonment, mental instability, danger to the child. In it, he demanded full custody of Nia. Every word on that paper cut into Maya like a blade. This was no longer the collapse of a marriage, it was an assassination of her honor, carried out in legal language. Rumors spread quickly. In the supermarket, Maya caught whispers. "That's Mrs. Okoye. Her husband says she thinks the cat died from poison." Ridiculous. Pulling Nia close, she rushed past. But the stares followed, skeptical, pitying, scornful. This was Adrian's psychological warfare. To strip her of footing, to make her doubt her own mind. Late at night, Maya sat on the damp floor of the flat, staring blankly at the cracked ceiling. Her thoughts drifted like a boat unmoored. Nia quietly settled beside her, touching her mother's tiny hand. "Don't give up, Mommy. I saw everything. I remember every detail. Daddy took the vial from his pocket, poured the white powder into the pot, and stirred it. I can write it down. I can testify for you." Maya looked at her daughter, her small eyes blazing in the dark, and a surge of strength welled inside her. She pulled Nia into her arms, tears streaming. "If I collapse, who will protect you?" "No, I promise you I will rise. I will not let him win." Meanwhile, Adrian appeared in the press, carefully sculpting the image of the devoted single father. In one interview, he smiled with feigned sorrow. "I only want to care for my daughter. It breaks my heart that my wife, whom I once loved dearly, has fallen into such instability. I pray for her recovery." The public wept. They saw him as the victim, and Maya as the madwoman. But in that cramped flat, Maya had begun writing. She recorded every detail of the anniversary night, every threat over the phone, every chilling glance. She turned pain into evidence, fear into ink. Each line in her battered notebook was a vow. "He wants to erase me, but he has taught me how to fight, and I will fight to the end." Outside, the rain hammered on the roof, steady and relentless, like the drum roll of a war just beginning. Within Maya, a small flame flickered to life, quiet but fierce. That flame would guide her through the darkest days, preparing her for the brutal confrontation. The afternoon in Surrey Hills lay under a shadowy veil. The sun hid behind thick clouds, leaving only thin shafts of light stretching across endless fields. Maya sat motionless on a stone bench in the garden of a sprawling estate, her hands frozen around a small bag containing the few belongings she had left. She had been there for more than an hour, her heart racing, her mind spinning with fractured images. The golden bowl of soup, her daughter's terrified eyes, Adrian's cold laugh, Onyx's lifeless body. Adrian had abandoned her here. He had spoken of taking her to a dinner with a successful businessman, a chance to save the marriage and start over. He had even straightened his tie, kissed her lightly, and promised to return after his meeting. But his car had long since vanished. The grand house behind her held no such dinner. The butler, confused, had explained that no meeting had ever been arranged. Maya waited, drowning in despair. She tried to call, but her phone screen glared back. No service. The rolling Surrey Hills blocked every signal. Adrian had known. He had calculated this abandonment, discarding her like an unwanted possession. The crunch of gravel jolted her. She looked up to see a man emerging from the great doorway. Tall, broad-shouldered, his silver-streaked hair framed a face of calm strength. Dressed simply in a grey sweater, his eyes shone with quiet clarity. He stopped before her, his voice deep, yet cautious. "Excuse me, are you waiting for someone? I'm Julian Hartwell, the owner of this house. My butler said there was a stranger in the garden." Maya tried to stand, but her legs trembled. "My husband told me he was bringing me to dinner here. He left me. His car is gone, and my phone has no signal." Her voice faltered, wavering between shame and fury. Julian watched her in silence, his brows knitting slightly. In her face, he did not see the deranged woman the newspapers had painted, but a soul worn down, desperate, cornered. "Gently," he said, "there's a landline inside. You're welcome to use it if you need to call someone. Please, come in." He did not touch her, did not pull. He walked beside her, leaving her the choice. The hall's grandeur struck Maya through the great oak doors. Oak, paneled walls, bookshelves stretching long, classical oil paintings in gilded frames. Yet instead of intimidation, the space radiated warmth, as though it had been preserved by someone who valued memory. In his study, Julian gestured to a polished ebony desk where an old-fashioned phone rested. "Please, use it freely." Then he stepped out, leaving her privacy. The courtesy unsettled Maya. Most gently it made her feel safe. With trembling hands, she dialed. But instead of Adrian's voice, an automated recording answered, "The number you have dialed is no longer in service." She tried again this time, the Hampstead house. The same response. Her chest tightened, desperate. She called Naomi, her younger sister. At last, a breathless voice came through. "Where are you? I've been trying to reach you all day." Maya broke down in sobs. "Naomi, he left me in Surrey Hills. Adrian cut off everything. What is he doing?" Naomi inhaled sharply before replying. "He filed for divorce this morning. He claims you abandoned the family and are mentally unstable. He's using Dr. Mercer's false report. He's frozen every account and moved funds overseas. And he's filed for an emergency order to keep Nia, saying you're dangerous to her." The phone slipped from Maya's hand, clattering onto the desk. Pain seared her chest. Adrian's intent had never been impulse. It was premeditated, thorough. Kill her with poison, or if that failed, destroy her name and steal her child. The door creaked open. Julian returned, carrying a glass of water and a box of tissues. He set them down without a word. Only when Maya lifted her swollen eyes did he speak. Softly, "I don't know what happened, but you need a resting place. I have a guest house on the grounds. You're welcome to stay there until you know your next step." "No, I can't. I don't know you," Maya whispered, doubt and fear still binding her. Julian nodded. "You don't. But I know your husband, Adrian Sawyer. We once worked together, and I know the type of man he island. If he left you here, it means he wanted you gone. Someone he tries so hard to erase must be someone who threatens him. I don't believe his lies. I believe what I see now. A woman who needs protection." Maya froze. His words stripped bare the truth she had dreaded to face. You believe me? In my life, I've learned to read people, and I see no madness here, no lies. Only a woman fighting to survive." Julian stood, placing a minor key on the desk. "The guest house is at the end of the path. Completely private. No strings, no conditions. You can leave any time, but tonight, at least you'll be safe." Maya took the key with trembling hands. A foreign sensation surged within her, to be trusted and offered shelter without judgment. She whispered, "Thank you." Julian gave a faint, kind smile. "Call me Julian. Safety first. The rest can wait." That night, in the quiet of the guest house, Maya lay awake, listening to the wind threading through the trees and the gentle patter of rain on the roof. On the bedside table, her phone blinked with a new message from an unknown number. "This is Alfie, Mr. Hartwell's driver. I just visited Nia at Julian's request. She's safe. She asked me to tell you she's still writing everything down. She says, 'Be strong, Mommy. She has a plan.'" Maya wept, clutching the phone to her chest. Her little girl, only 9, had become a warrior in this battle against her cruel father. And that night, Maya felt hope for the first time in months. Adrian thought leaving her here would erase her, but no, he had unknowingly placed her in the safest place she could be, where she could heal, find allies, and begin a new journey. The first days in Surrey Hills passed slowly, but peace never came. Maya awoke each morning in the guest house, pale light filtering through the curtains, her nerves stretched taut. Every shadow cast on the wall felt like Adrian standing outside the door. Yet one thing kept her from collapsing: Alfie's nightly messages, assuring her that Nia was safe. Her daughter was not only writing and observing, but doing far more. Small exercise books began to arrive, covered in Nia's neat handwriting. Inside were daily records, dates, times, conversations, Adrian's expressions and movements. Day 1. Daddy told Grandma that Mommy is sick. I told her about the poison, but she said I was imagining things. She didn't believe me. Day 3. I heard Daddy call Miss Tamsin. He said, "She's taken the bait. Just one more month, and it'll all be over." Day 7. I found Daddy's second phone. I took photos of the messages with my tablet before he noticed. Day 15. Miss Tamsin came to the house and slept in Mommy's room. I pretended to be asleep, but I set up a small camera. I recorded them. Maya's hands shook as she turned each page. Part of her ached, knowing her 9-year-old daughter was forced into the spiral in her own home, but another part blazed with pride. The child had seen what adults overlooked. She did not flinch. She did not give up. One afternoon, Julian found Maya in the estate library. She sat at a wooden desk, Nia's notebook open, tears spilling down her cheeks. He paused in the doorway, his gaze gentle but grave. "May I sit?" She nodded. Julian sat across from her, scanning the tiny script. "She's extraordinary. Many grown men wouldn't have the clarity to do this. She shouldn't have to." Maya's voice broke. She should be at school, carefree, playing, not spying on her father to protect her mother. Julian was silent for a while before answering softly, "True, but that is what makes her stronger than us. She's already learned what most people spend a lifetime to realize. Injustice must be recorded. Truth must be preserved." Maya stared down at the pages. She remembered Nia's fierce eyes when she screamed to stop her from drinking the soup. This child was not just a witness. She was the soul of truth itself. That evening, Alfie delivered a memory card. His voice was low. "Nia asked me to give you this. She said the password is your real wedding date, not the one Adrian brags about." Maya opened her laptop, her heart pounding. Dozens of videos appeared on the screen. The footage was shaky and poorly lit, but the audio was clear. In one clip, Adrian sneered into his office phone. "She thinks I'm trying to save us, but soon she'll either be dead or locked in a ward. Either way, I win." In another, he stood with Tamsin in the kitchen, kissing her before whispering, "Once she's gone, everything will be ours." Maya clutched her mouth, tears streaming. No room for doubt remained, no room for illusion. The man she once loved had transformed into a cold, calculating destroyer. Julian sat beside her, watching quietly. He didn't reach out or interrupt. He bore witness, his silence like a shield. He finally spoke when the final video ended. "This is evidence. Together with Nia's journals, you can dismantle the entire lie he's built. But he has money, lawyers, the press," Maya whispered, voice trembling. "And you have truth." Julian's gaze hardened. Truth may take time, but once revealed, it is stronger than anything. Maya looked at him, her eyes still wet but clearer than before. For the first time, she felt she was no longer alone. That night, she wrote a letter for Nia, asking Alfie to deliver it. "My darling, I've seen the videos and read your journals. You make me both ache and glow with pride. I promise we will bring the truth into the light. Keep writing, but above all, stay safe. I need you." By dawn, Maya awoke with a new resolve. She was no longer the woman abandoned at the roadside. She was a mother prepared to fight for her child. And her allies were not only Nia, but Julian, Alfie, and the truth Adrian never imagined would turn against him. As pale sunlight streamed through the trees, Maya stood by the window and whispered, "You thought you could destroy me, Adrian, but it's your daughter who will be your downfall, and I will turn this pain into a weapon. The game has only just begun." The London rain had not ceased for days, each drop tapping the guesthouse window like tiny needles. Maya sat at the desk, papers and memory cards piled high. Every piece of evidence her daughter smuggled out was another brick in the wall she built against Adrian Sawyer's power. But she knew raw truth alone was not enough. To bring down a man as wealthy and cunning as Adrian, she needed the one thing he could not deny: money. Julian understood that better than anyone. One morning, he entered the library, carrying a large box of documents. I had a colleague look into it. Sawyer has siphoned off more than £3 million from his company in the past 6 months. All of it transferred to accounts in the Channel Islands. Maya's eyes widened, alarmed. But how can we prove it? He's careful he's forged my signature before. Julian nodded. Yes, he forged. But not perfectly. A handwriting expert will spot the differences. And he's been more careless than we thought. Look at this. He laid out a stack of color photographs. In one, Tamsin Blake, Adrian's mistress, posed with a champagne glass on a Channel Islands beach, and in the background, faint but unmistakable, Adrian entered a bank with a briefcase. Maya clutched the photo, her heart pounding. Where did this come from? Your daughter. Julian's smile was thin but proud. Nia found it on Tamsin's Instagram. The woman foolishly tagged the location. The timestamp perfectly matches the weekend, Adrian told the press. He was in Frankfurt for a business conference. A single lie can bring down an entire castle. Maya laughed through her tears. Her daughter, only 9, already had the instincts of an investigator. She's too clever for her own good. I'm proud, and I'm heartbroken. Julian said nothing momentarily, then rested his hand lightly on the desk, close but not intruding. We cannot change what has happened, but we can turn her brilliance into a weapon to save you both. That afternoon, they met with Priya Desai, a young but razor-sharp lawyer. Adjusting her black-rimmed glasses, Priya examined the files. He's not just embezzling, he created shell companies to cover the money flow. But the stupidest thing? He registered one account jointly with Tamsin. That drags her down with him. A flicker of grim satisfaction lit Maya's face. Tamsin, long pampered and spoiled by Adrian's money, was now his most significant liability. If this goes public, Tamsin will panic. She's not loyal. She'll save herself. And that, Priya said with a firm nod, will be the beginning of his downfall. 3 days later, the storm broke. Alfie's quiet handiwork delivered envelopes filled with photos, text messages, and recordings to Adrian's key business partners. Inside were images of him with Tamsin and recordings of his contemptuous sneers. Those old fools will never understand. I bleed them dry, and they still think I'm a genius. The backlash was swift. One partner called to terminate a contract, then another, then a third. London's financial circles buzzed. Was Adrian Sawyer guilty of fraud? Company shares plummeted, employees leaked information, and investors fled. Maya received the news with a storm of emotion. For the first time in months, the balance was shifting. She was no longer just a victim, she was striking back. That evening, Alfie delivered another recording from Nia. The little girl whispered from her room, "Mommy, today I heard Daddy fighting with Miss Tamsin. She screamed when she found that the money was frozen. She said the baby isn't his. I recorded it." Maya trembled as she listened. Tamsin's voice cut sharply. "You fool, Adrian. I never planned to have a child with you. I only wanted the money. But now you have nothing. You've dragged me down with you." A door slammed. Silence followed. Julian sighed softly beside her. She's left him. And she revealed the cruelest truth. He's alone now. Maya leaned back, a weight lifting from her shoulders. He thought he could buy youth and admiration. But he never understood an accomplice for money will flee when the money runs dry. The next day, London's press exploded. Investigative reports surfaced, citing anonymous sources within Adrian's company, financial fraud, illicit affairs, and offshore accounts. Headlines filled the papers. Adrian tried to deny everything, dismissing it as my ex-wife's conspiracy, but the photos and videos were undeniable. Public trust crumbled. Standing by the guesthouse window, Maya watched rain fall on Julian's white rose garden. For the first time, she allowed herself to smile, not a smile of triumph, but of relief, because truth had begun to find its way into the light. She whispered, as though sending her words across to Hampstead, "You thought you held every piece, Adrian. But you forgot a 9-year-old can overturn the whole board. And she is my daughter." The crystal chandeliers of the Dorchester glittered over the grand hall, where hundreds of guests in evening dress mingled, champagne glasses shimmering in their hands. This was the Sterling Foundation's annual charity gala, an event the London elite treated as a measure of status and respectability. Gowns of silk and sequins, tuxedos tailored to perfection, polite greetings laced with hidden meanings all wove together into a theatre of opulence. Into this crowd stepped Adrian Sawyer, still trying to act the king he once was. His tuxedo was old but neatly pressed, his face powdered to mask the fatigue etched in lines around his eyes. He moved through the hall with a forced smile, extending his hand to acquaintances. But their eyes slid past him, their responses curt. The rumors of his offshore accounts, of Tamsin's disappearance, had stripped away his shine. Tonight, he needed redemption proof that he still mattered. Across the room, Maya entered with Julian. She wore a sleek black gown that flowed like water, her hair swept high to reveal a face both proud and radiant. She was no longer the trembling woman abandoned in the cold garden at Surrey Hills. She was transformed, her posture straight, her eyes bright, the aura of one who had stared at death and still stood tall. Julian leaned toward her, murmuring, "You look magnificent, but more than that, you radiate a strength he will never touch." Maya nodded, drawing a long, steady breath. She knew the plan for tonight would change everything. After the formal opening, the lights dimmed. The host's voice rang out, "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are not only here to raise funds, we are here to speak of truth, of protecting families, women, and children." The massive screen behind the stage lit up. At first, dry statistics on domestic violence appeared. Then, suddenly Nia's small face filled the screen. Dressed in her school uniform, seated in a quiet library, her wide eyes stared directly into the camera. Her clear, steady voice rang through the hall. "My name is Nia Okoye Sawyer. I am 9 years old. I want to tell you about the night my father tried to kill my mother." A ripple of shock swept across the crowd. Glasses clinked and fell. Maya felt Julian's hand tighten around hers, steadying her. On the screen, shaky footage appeared. Adrian in the kitchen, pulling a vial from his pocket, pouring white powder into the soup. He stirred calmly, his face unreadable. Then came Nia's piercing scream, "Don't eat it, Mommy, don't eat it." And finally, Onyx the cat, writhing, collapsing lifeless on the floor. The hall fell into dead silence. Every eye turned toward Adrian. His face had gone chalk white, sweat beading on his brow. "Lies!" he shouted. "This is fabricated. They're framing me." But the video rolled on. Now came the recording from his office. Adrian's mocking and cruel voice. "She's so stupid, thinking I'm trying to save us. Soon, she'll be dead or locked away. Either way, I win." Gasps echoed. Some women covered their mouths. Some men turned away, unable to look. Adrian lunged toward the stage, but security blocked his path. "This is a trap. You're smearing me," he shrieked, his voice shrill, his eyes darting in panic. The screen shifted again, emails, bank transfers, contracts signed with Maya's forged signature. Then Tamsin's furious outburst played. "The baby was never yours. I only wanted the money. And now you've dragged me down with you." The hall erupted in furious whispers. Former allies turned their backs. An elderly business partner shouted outright, "You bastard!" And then Nia's voice, live this time, via video link. "Daddy, you told me Mommy was crazy, that she imagined things. But I'm not blind, not deaf. I saw, I heard, and I recorded everything. You always thought I was just a child. But I am a witness, and I stand with my mother." The lights blazed back on. Maya appeared at the far end of the stairs. Step by step, she descended, her black gown rippling like a tide. The crowd parted silently as she advanced toward Adrian, whose face contorted with fear and rage. "You thought you could kill me in silence," Maya said, her voice calm yet unyielding. "You thought you could erase me, turn me into a ghost. But you forgot truth has eyes. And that night, it was your daughter who saw." At that moment, the hall doors burst open. Police officers strode in, voices clear and firm. "Adrian Sawyer, you are under arrest for attempted murder, financial fraud, and falsifying medical records. You have the right to remain silent, but anything you say can and will be used against you in court." Adrian thrashed, screaming, "Maya, you once loved me. Is there nothing left?" Maya met his eyes, unwavering. "The man I loved died long ago on the day he saw me as property. Tonight, I bid farewell not to a husband but a criminal." The officers dragged Adrian away, his howls echoing through the hall. For a long moment, the crowd remained hushed, then applause broke out, swelling into thunderous waves. They did not clap for Adrian's downfall, but for Maya and the small, brave girl who had dared to stand for truth. Julian moved to her side, whispering, "You've done it." Maya inhaled deeply, her gaze rising to the now dark screen. "No, we did it. My daughter, I, and all those who refused to stay silent." In that moment, under the chandeliers and the storm of applause, Maya knew the nightmare of 10 years had ended, and before her stretched a new chapter no longer under Adrian Sawyer's shadow. The cold stone steps of the Old Bailey gleamed under the morning Sunday. Crowds of reporters thronged the entrance, cameras flashing toward the great doors of Britain's most notorious courthouse. Today, the name that had dominated headlines for weeks resounded once again. Adrian Sawyer, property tycoon charged with attempted murder, financial fraud, and falsifying medical records. Maya ascended the steps, Nia gripping her right hand, Julian steady on her left. Shouts and camera flashes exploded, but Maya did not bow her head. Dressed in a navy coat, her hair swept high, her gaze unwavering, she was no longer the woman abandoned, trembling in a cold garden. She was the key witness in a landmark case. The jury sat solemnly inside, and stern Judge Reeves presided from the bench. Adrian entered in grey prison garb, his face gaunt, yet straining to project arrogance. When his eyes fell on Maya and their daughter, his lips curled into a smirk as he muttered to his defense lawyer. Maya ignored him. The prosecution began. Adrian Sawyer plotted to murder his wife with poison, forged her signature to embezzle over £3 million, and conspired with a physician to fabricate psychiatric records to strip her of custody. Documents, bank statements, and emails flashed across the screen. Murmurs rippled through the gallery, faces once familiar to Sawyer now hardened in disgust. When Maya took the witness stand, she inhaled deeply before speaking, her voice steady. "That night, he cooked the soup I once loved. I believed it was a new beginning. But my daughter screamed for me to stop, and seconds later, our cat lay dead on the floor. That was no accident. It was a plan." Adrian's lawyer dismissed her words as emotional, unfounded. But then the prosecutor played the video. Nia had captured Adrian pulling the vial from his pocket, pouring white powder into the pot. Silence gripped the courtroom. Judge Reeves frowned, tapping his gavel. Next came Nia's testimony, which was delivered via video link for her protection. Sitting upright in her school uniform, she spoke clearly. "I saw Daddy put the white powder in the pot. I recorded it. I wrote in my journal every day so I wouldn't forget." The chamber was so quiet that her small, unwavering voice cut through like a blade. Then came another clip, Adrian's voice, mocking in his office. "She's stupid enough to think I'm saving us. Soon she'll either be dead or insane. Either way, I win." A sob broke out in the gallery. Maya turned to see a former employee of Adrian's company weeping. The woman whispered, "He threatened me too. I was too scared to speak." The trial stretched over days, stripping Adrian of another mask each session. Bank records proved Maya's forged signature. Emails with Dr. Mercer revealed bribes for false psychiatric reports. Women from exclusive clubs stepped forward, testifying to harassment they had long kept silent about. Adrian unraveled. He shouted across the courtroom, "Maya, you betrayed me. I loved you. I gave you everything." Judge Reeves slammed his gavel. "Order." Maya met Adrian's gaze, calm and cold. "You never loved me. You only loved the power of controlling me." Finally, Judge Reeves delivered the verdict. "The jury has reviewed the evidence and testimony. We find Adrian Sawyer guilty of attempted murder, financial fraud, and falsification of medical records. Sentencing will be delivered in due course. Effective immediately, the defendant is stripped of all custody and marital assets. Full custody of Nia Sawyer is awarded to Mrs. Maya Okoye. The gavel struck like a bell of liberation. Maya clutched her daughter, tears falling not of sorrow, but of release. Julian stood beside her, his hand firm on her shoulder, a fortress at her side. Adrian was dragged out, shouting in vain, "You'll regret this, Maya. I'll come back. I'll take everything back." But the steel cuffs on his wrists and the contempt in every eye told another truth. He had lost everything, with no path back. On the courthouse steps, Maya paused before the sea of reporters. The wind lifted her hair, sunlight striking her face. She spoke only 4 words. "Truth has prevailed." Then she took her daughter's hand and walked forward, through the cheers of those who had once stayed silent but found their faith restored. Spring came slowly to Surrey Hills. The trees still stood bare after the long winter, but tender buds had begun to push through in Julian's garden of white roses, signs of life returning. Maya stood by the guest house window, a cup of tea in hand, watching each small change in the garden and realizing it mirrored her journey, from ruin and fracture to fragile regrowth. Since the Old Bailey trial, the press had exploded with headlines. Adrian was imprisoned, awaiting sentencing, stripped of wealth and custody. Yet victory did not erase scars. At night, Maya still woke drenched in cold sweat, ears ringing with his screams. She hardly recognized herself in the mirror at times. Dark circles, early lines carved around her lips, an air of constant vigilance. Julian urged her toward therapy. She felt she might collapse the first time she entered Dr. Patricia Williams's office. She sat frozen, unable to begin. But Patricia was gentle. "You don't need to tell everything today. You need to breathe, and know that no one here doubts you." The sessions became a gauntlet of emotions sometimes, Maya screamed, sometimes sat in silence, trembled as she relived the spoon raised to her lips. Patricia taught her to see clearly. He hurt you, but the fault was never yours. Meanwhile, Nia, too, was changing. No longer did she chronicle every minute in her notebook. Instead, she devoured books, painted, and learned chess from Alfie. One afternoon, Maya watched her daughter defeat Julian in a match. Nia grinned. "I won." Julian laughed, unoffended. "Yes, and I'm prouder than I am disappointed." Maya's eyes stung. Her daughter was reclaiming the childhood stolen from her. Julian remained ever present, but never imposing. He brought Maya books, leaving them on her desk without expectation. He slipped her small cards. "The sun is out today. I hope you find some light for yourself, too." Sometimes he sat nearby, saying nothing, his quiet presence enough to remind her she wasn't alone. That patience finally convinced Maya. Not all men were like Adrian. One evening, Maya received a letter from the prison, Adrian's handwriting tightening her chest. In it, he lamented his suffering behind bars, blamed her for destroying the family, and begged to see Nia. Ultimately, he wrote, "I forgive you for ruining everything. Can you forgive my one mistake?" Maya shook with fury. One mistake? Attempted murder, manipulation of a child, the theft of 10 years a single mistake, Patricia advised. "If you wish, confront him. Forgiveness is not for him, but for you to free yourself from the chain." A week later, Maya chose to face him in the visitation room, Julian at her side. Adrian shuffled in, gaunt, hair disheveled, eyes still flickering with arrogance. Maya felt no love, only a cold pity. "You destroyed everything," she said slowly. "But I no longer carry hatred. I forgive you, not for you, but for me. I need to move on. But you will never see your daughter again. You forfeited that right yourself." Adrian screamed, begged, and cursed, but Maya rose and left, lighter than ever felt. That evening, in the white rose garden, she told Julian. He said nothing at first, only handed her a small box. Inside was a silver ring with a moonstone, glowing softly. "This is not a proposal," Julian said, his voice low and warm. "It's a promise. I promise to wait, stay, and care even if you're not ready. Wear it if you ever wish. If never, that's fine too. But I'll still be here." Maya wept, not from pain but from tenderness. For the first time, she believed love did not have to mean control. "What if I never heal completely?" she whispered. Julian smiled gently. Then I will love the cracks. They are part of your story. Time passed. Old wounds slowly closed. Maya enrolled in part-time law classes, determined not only to survive but to stand again as a lawyer, a mother, and a woman in her own right. Nia grew brighter, slept peacefully, and began to call Julian Uncle Julian with affectionate ease. Alfie teased, "Soon enough, she'll call him something else entirely." One evening at dinner, Nia suddenly said, "Mommy, I think Mr. Julian is more like a dad than anyone else. Daddy isn't Daddy anymore. He never did anything to make you afraid." Maya froze, her eyes glistening. Julian looked down, ears flushed red. No one added a word, but warmth swelled quietly in Maya's chest. That night, she wrote in her journal, "Healing is not a straight line. Some days, I still flinch at the slam of a door. Some days, I cry for no reason. But there are days when I feel peace, when I watch my daughter laugh and hear Julian humming softly in the library. I am not fully healed, but I am living. And I am living more fully than before." The official sentencing occurred in the Old Bailey's ancient stone chamber. The press filled every corner, cameras flashing at the man who once stepped from luxury cars with arrogance, now led in wearing a wrinkled grey prison uniform. Adrian Sawyer stood trembling before the bench, his hollow face and bloodshot eyes betraying the weight of what would come, as Judge Reeves's deep voice rang out, "The jury has found you guilty on all counts: attempted murder, financial fraud, falsification of medical records, and conspiracy to seize assets. The court sentences you to 15 years imprisonment for these crimes, with no possibility of early release." The gavel echoed like thunder. Adrian shouted, his voice breaking, "Maya, say something. You once loved me. It was just one mistake." But Maya no longer trembled. Seated between Julian and Nia, she shook her head. It had never been love, only possession. Guards dragged Adrian away. His final cry echoed like a ghost being pulled into the past. "You'll regret this." But Maya knew there was nothing left to regret. She had survived. She had won. 3 months later, a small ceremony was held in Julian's blooming garden of white roses. Unlike the lavish wedding Adrian had turned into a display of power, this was simple family, close friends, nothing more. Maya wore a flowing ivory gown, graceful and understated, walking along a path with petals. Julian waited at the end, eyes glistening. When they exchanged vows, Nia held the rings, her hands trembling but her smile radiant. She whispered, "Our family is truly beginning again." At the modest reception afterward, Nia surprised everyone by taking the microphone. Her voice rang clear and bright. "People say I'm too young to understand, but I know love is not control, it's protection. My father chose lies and violence, but Uncle Julian chose patience and kindness. So today, I want to ask, Uncle Julian, will you be my dad?" The garden fell silent. Julian dropped to one knee, eyes brimming. "That is the greatest honor of my life, Nia. From this day, you are my daughter." Applause erupted, mingling with tears. Maya pulled her daughter into her arms, her heart whole for the first time. Meanwhile, in a dim corner of the prison, Adrian sat hunched on his steel cot, staring at a crumpled newspaper showing Maya's wedding. He slashed a pen across Julian's face in manic fury, whispering, "You should have been mine. How dare you be happy?" But the mocking laughter of fellow inmates silenced him. To the world, he was no longer a tycoon, only a broken man, clinging to the ruins of his past. 1 year later, Maya raised a glass to speak at Nia's birthday party in the rose garden. Surrounded by friends, family, Julian, and her daughter, she said, "Once, someone tried to destroy me with a bowl of soup, but I did not swallow it. And I learned the only antidote is love and truth. The greatest revenge is not making him suffer, but living so fully that his existence becomes meaningless." The garden held a hushed silence, then lifted its glasses. Julian leaned close, whispering, "You didn't just survive, you've been reborn." Maya smiled, inhaling deeply. She looked at her daughter, laughing with her friends, Julian speaking with Alfie and Priya, and at the unbroken blue sky above. Her heart was finally at peace. Adrian had once tried to trap her as a permanent victim, But now, with white roses blooming all around, Maya understood. She had not only escaped the darkness, she had stepped into a new life, whole and free, and that was the greatest revenge.